Welcome. This is 10 Plus Brands interviews of the notables and influencers. First of all, my heartfelt thanks to Tim Draper for coming to my podcast. The questions here today are about cryptocurrency and the economy, and they're not intended to promote or demote digital currency. The name Draper is synonymous with Silicon Valley. For generations, the Drapers have been funding startups beginning in the late 50s. Meet the Drapers is a popular TV show where aspiring entrepreneurs get to pitch the family on getting funded. Here are just a few of the successful investments by Tim Draper: Tesla, Skype, Baidu, Coinbase, Twitter, DocuSign, Ancestry.com, and Robinhood. If there was a first family of Silicon Valley, it would be the Drapers, quote unquote. Thank you again, Tim, for the tremendous honor to be interviewed today.
Thank you, Joanne. Great to hear from you, and looking forward to your questions. This should be fun.
Yeah, 60 questions, and they're not all very easy.
Oh, I hope we can get through them.
Yeah, quickly, I'm Joanne Z, CEO of 10 Plus Brand, a full-service digital brand marketing agency. We build business and personal brands for funded startups, innovative companies, thought leaders, and influencers. Now, question number one. As one of the earliest investors in digital currency, after paying $19 million for Bitcoin in 2014, how would you describe Bitcoin's growth journey so far? Would you say that in 2014, Bitcoin was an infant, and now in 2021, a teenager? If so, as a sixth grader or a 10th grader?
I think it's still an infant, but we were very excited to be able to buy that Bitcoin way back when. And people ask me, well, are you going to sell your Bitcoin? And when are you going to sell your Bitcoin? And I say, into what? Why would I take the currency of the future and convert it to the currency of the past? It would be like taking euros and trading them for drachma or French francs, or taking the dollar and converting it to Confederate dollars. It makes no sense, because we have a new currency that is the basis for a new platform to bring the world economy to another level, and to make us all more global and less tribal, less tied to one geographic area or another. This is a really critical time in human history. It's really an exciting time in human history. And so, because I think we're going from tribal to global, but there's going to be a lot of wild, tumultuous waves along the way. But one Bitcoin is still worth one Bitcoin. It's all these other currencies that are very volatile as they slowly disappear from use.
Okay, question number two. How mature is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? How many years before Bitcoin and crypto as a whole reach maturity? How long will it take for crypto assets, that's currency and the blockchain, to permeate the small business markets?
Well, you can get Bitcoin. You can use and accept Bitcoin now. People were worried about the speed at which you could transact a Bitcoin transaction, but it turns out that now with OpenNode, they're faster than the Visa network. So you can, if you're a small business, you can accept Bitcoin now, and you can do all your accounting for Bitcoin now. With Cryptio. So by putting together OpenNode and Cryptio, if you're a small business, you now have the ability to operate your entire business in Bitcoin. And I think governments need to figure out how to properly tax Bitcoin the way they tax fiat.
Yes.
It should be treated exactly the same way as fiat. And
Yes.
And then the governments will be fine with people running businesses in another currency other than their own.
Question number three. Elon Musk bought more than 1 billion Bitcoin for Tesla in February 2021. Then he voiced the issue about
$1 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Not
1
a
billion.
billion Bitcoin. There aren't a billion Bitcoin. There are only 21 million Bitcoin.
Yes, that's true.
Right. Okay.
$1 billion worth of it. Yes. Then he voiced the issue about the unsustainable use of energy for mining Bitcoin, which is more than all other types of crypto coins. And here, I don't want to compare carbon footprints of Bitcoins with fiats and traditional banking institutions to keep it orange, okay? Apple to apple. Would you agree that Bitcoin is indeed a lot more energy consuming than Ether, Dogecoin, and all other altcoins and meme coins out there?
Well, yeah, the way you're phrasing it, you said you don't want to compare it to fiat, but you have to compare it to fiat. Elon shouldn't accept fiat if he's concerned about our carbon footprint. Think of all the bankers going to work, all the people who are going back and forth to their bank branch. Think of all the energy that's consumed in banking. People have done the research, and our banks use so much more energy than Bitcoin ever will. And it turns out the amount of energy that is used for Bitcoin mining continues to run down over time. And by 2040, it'll be almost nothing. And because while energy use per switch does not comply to Moore's law, so it doesn't double every 18 months, but it does drop over time. We used to use 5 volts per switch, and then it was 3 volts per switch, and then it was 1.8 volts, 1.3 volts, 0.9, keeps going down. And the amount of energy used per switch will continue down. So the energy argument is not a strong argument. And the amount of energy, Bitcoin is the most secure of all the currencies, of all the crypto or fiat currencies. Bitcoin blockchain's never been hacked. So I think it's worth spending a little energy to get that kind of security.
Okay, well, I tend to, I know you are a big enthusiast through thick and thin of Bitcoin. So I need to bring some different perspective. As of yesterday,
you don't have to. You don't have to bring a different perspective. Hey, this is the future.
Oh, well, here's the thing. As of yesterday, the Bloomberg News reported that Chinese government is shutting down Bitcoin mines. Shutting down some coal mines in Inner Mongolia and Xinjiang, because those coal mines were illegally opened and due to the demand for energy. And the demand for energy came directly from the miners of Bitcoins in those areas where the energy was cheap. And that, well, Chinese government already was, not happy with any forms of digital currency other than their own. Now it's said to be, violating their environmental goal. So that, and also about banking, come on, the banks, the institutions, the bankers, the real estate have been there for God knows how long. But Bitcoin is so new. You can't really compare this new phenomenon with an old institution have been permeated throughout the world. And of course—
Why not? Why not? You're saying you can't compare an electric car to a gas-powered car. You're saying you can't compare using horses to automobiles.
No, that's not my point.
Of course you can.
Yes.
You want to compare them because you want to see which one's better, and
Yes.
you want to adopt the one that's better. And Bitcoin's better. It just is. And the Chinese government, the Chinese had such a good government before President Xi took over and decided he'd become dictator and move back to this socialist dictator communist regime. All the entrepreneurs are leaving. The spirit of China seems to be way down. The people the brains are draining. Everybody's leaving, and he's putting in so many government constraints that he's ruining the freedom and the trust in that country. we had extraordinary freedom and trust in China. The country was booming under Deng Xiaoping. He brought the free markets in. He opened the borders. He allowed the world to trade. But you know, freedom and trust are what make for the best governments in the world. And if you start having the government decide everything for everyone, you'll end up with the equivalent of North Korea, whereas what you want is the equivalent of South Korea. That in Korea, my dad fought in Korea, and at the end of that war, they had a line that was drawn between the South and North Korea. It was called the demilitarized zone. And in North Korea, they had a socialist dictatorship. The government decided everything for everyone. Freedoms were gone. The people did whatever the government told them to do. They followed the Marxist-Leninist doctrine. And then in South Korea, they opened the borders. They created free markets. It was an open democracy. It was capitalistic. And now we've had a 70-year experiment here where that border has been very solid. People don't go across it. And now we're 70 years into it. And the average South Korean now makes 460 times what the average North Korean makes. And that is including purchasing power. And the average South Korean is now 4 inches taller than the average North Korean. And my belief is that the average South Korean is happier, more excited about life, more open, and you know the South Korean economy is much stronger than the North Korean economy.
So Tim.
Well, so freedom is one of the most important things to build an economy. And if you take the freedom away from 1 billion people in China, you are making a huge mistake. You're saying that you know better what they should all do than all of them know.
And by the way,
it's the worst thing that they could have possibly done for
yes,
for that amazing country. I just love the Chinese, and I cannot believe that we're tolerating this kind of
they had no
socialist
choice.
dictatorship.
So I do absolutely agree with you that without freedom, without democracy, without freedom of capitalist exchange of goods and services and currency, there is crypto is not going anywhere as a global digital currency. And well,
it's going a lot of places.
Yeah, except in those regions.
And let me get into the other part of this. I said freedom and trust.
Yes.
And trust is absolutely critical. Singapore was one of the least trustworthy countries about 78 years ago. And then Lee Kuan Yew came in and he built trust in that country, one brick at a time. He built this amazing trust system. And now 70 years later, Singapore is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. They went from one of the poorest and least trusted to one of the wealthiest and most trusted countries in the world, just by building that trust brick by brick.
Yes.
If the government's coming down on everybody and they're not letting them do the things that they need to do to build a life, they are hurting that trust. And that's why I love Bitcoin. It's freedom and it's trust. It's open, it's transparent, it's global, it's decentralized, so it isn't tied to any geographic borders. It's moving humanity from being tribal to being global. It's moving humanity from being tied to geographic borders to an open globe where we can all run free within the world. It is it's a fabulous vehicle for governments, for people, for businesses, for all of us to operate with.
Okay, now question number 4 about Elon Musk's support for Dogecoin. Unlike Bitcoin that has limited quantity, Dogecoin has no limit. So lacking the scarcity element as one of the intrinsic values of digital currency. Do you think scarcity, albeit man-made, is important to crypto?
Well, I think that it's very important for a cryptocurrency to have a known limit to how much is printed. And there is a known limit, 21 million Bitcoin. If a currency is in any way centralized, if any one person or one group of people can go ahead and print any number of these currency, then the value of that currency drops. And the whole point of trust in the currency disappears. So one of the great reasons that you want to move to cryptocurrency from fiat currency is that cryptocurrency is not tied to any political force. It's not tied to any one individual who decides to print a whole bunch of currency of one type or another. It is a fixed number. Now, if you were to create a perfect currency, it might be a little bit more like Tezos, where the voters, the owners of the currency can vote as to whether you inflate the currency, whether you add more to the currency. But if you have a centralized control of any kind in any currency, you're not getting that benefit. You are losing the benefit of not having an inflationary currency. The problem with fiat is exemplified by a good friend of mine now, who I met when he was at the Boost VC accelerator, and I met with him. His name's Sebastian Serrano, and he told me this story. He said, my family has made a fortune 3 times and lost it 3 times to currency manipulation in Argentina. And I said, well, God, that's horrible. And he said, yeah. And so there's no incentive for people to build things of value in Argentina because they know that the government is just going to print money and it's going to be worth less the next year. And so why build anything of value? Well, now with Bitcoin, he got all excited because he said, now we have a currency of value that we can build to, and we can build our business in Bitcoin. And we don't have to worry about whether the government is going to print, double, triple the number of Argentinian pesos out there in the marketplace. So Bitcoin also brings hope to people who live in countries that have bad currencies. Nigeria, the Naira is a horrible currency.
Venezuela, yes.
Venezuela with a Bolivar, horrible currency. And these currencies, when people look and say, I'm going to build this value, and then the government's going to take it from me in one way or another, either by force or through currency manipulation, the incentive to build something of great value goes away. And you don't want that. And the beauty of the countries that are trusted and free are that the entrepreneur, the people who really want to build something of great value, they have an incentive to do so that they can hold on to it.
Yeah. So
take care of their families and take care of their
for Bitcoin. Yeah, for Bitcoin, there is a scarcity limit. There's a ceiling, how many can be issued. And
so it builds incredible trust.
Right, but Dogecoin is the opposite of it.
Yeah, so I don't speak for Dogecoin.
Okay, good. Now, next question. Is volatility, as shown in the last few weeks of crypto's roller coastering ride, an inherent trait of crypto?
No, as I said, 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin. But there's huge volatility in all these other currencies as they slowly disappear from use. When you have a big transformation like this, you have a big, almost a revolution.
Disruption.
You see that incredible change that's happening. Those changes don't happen in any smooth way. They're going to happen in fits and starts. Some governments are going to go, wow, this is a great opportunity for us. Let's make Bitcoin a national currency the way Japan did. And other countries are going to be paranoid, and they're going to, like China, and they're going to say, no, we're not going to let people have Bitcoin here or whatever. And so all of the new innovations, all of the entrepreneurs, they will move to Japan and away from China, because they look and they say, I can build something of value in Japan and hold on to it. It looks like the Chinese government is just going to take everything from me.
Yeah. Now, my question is the volatility in the crypto market. You think that is?
I say one Bitcoin is still worth one.
One Bitcoin, but still it's the worth.
And so where's the volatility in that?
Right.
The volatility is against fiat. And I'm watching fiat go way up and way down against Bitcoin as it slowly disappears from use.
We're not seeing the same thing, because in April, Bitcoin is worth more than 60,000. And then after Elon Musk, and back and forth, now it's worth 40-some thousand. That's one Bitcoin is worth as measured by fiat. But I'm not seeing that.
But I look at it very differently. I look at it as Bitcoin is the currency that is here to stay.
Yes.
And fiat is the currency that is slowly going to go away. Okay. And so the fiat is slowly going away, but it's going to be up, it's going to be down, it's going to be up, it's going to be down, and it's going to slowly disappear from use.
Okay.
When you are able to run your business, buy your goods and services, buy your groceries, whatever, with Bitcoin, why will anyone still want to use a government-controlled currency? Why will anyone trust a government-controlled currency when they can do everything they need to do with Bitcoin?
Ideally, yes.
And that's coming.
Okay. And is there a correlation between stock market volatility and cryptocurrencies volatility?
I think that when the stock market moves up and down, people either they feel wealthy or they feel poor. And when they feel wealthy, they are willing to try new things. And so people will try all sorts of things, buying whatever they think would be startups and whatever. And cryptocurrency sort of falls into that category of something that seems a little bit risky at the time. Well, over time, cryptocurrency has gotten less and less risky, and we are much more confident in its long-term success. But when things get very tough and people feel poor, then they pull in whatever money will help them buy their groceries, their goods and services, and so there's going to be a little bit of a switch that happens, and if the stock market falls and you can't buy your goods and services in Bitcoin yet, then you will move back into fiat. But if you can buy it in Bitcoin, you'll move it all into Bitcoin. It depends on how much can you buy all your groceries, can you buy your real estate, can you buy your automobiles all in Bitcoin. And the moment that happens, then people will, when they're feeling poor, they will revert back to Bitcoin.
Okay. I don't know if you meant it what you said, but you said when the stock market falls, people will move back to fiat. Did you mean Bitcoin just now?
No, I said it depends on when. If it were right now, people would move back to fiat, because that's how they buy their groceries. When you feel poor, you think, I've got to buy my groceries. Let me make sure I have enough cash to buy my groceries. But the moment that they can buy their groceries with Bitcoin, they are going to, then when a stock market falls, they would retreat back to Bitcoin because they can buy all their goods and services with Bitcoin, and there are only 21 million of them.
All right. In addition to the element of scarcity, what are other intrinsic values associated with crypto? Is traceability, thanks to blockchain technology that enables transparency of the source and all prior ownership, another unique value proposition that crypto has that fiat does not yet?
Oh yeah, of course. The blockchain keeps perfect records. And so Bitcoin will be an honest currency. And as people's names are attached to their wallets, it will be even more honest. And so I suspect that honesty, that trust will grow the currency, and people will feel better and better and better by it because of it. Now, one other thing that's kind of interesting about that blockchain is that it keeps perfect records, and as you said, it can identify who all the owners were before. Well, that's maybe interesting with currency, but it's really interesting with art, or with music, or with anything, or with fancy purses, or whatever. People really want to know where that came from. And sometimes with food, people want to know which farm that food came from.
Mm-hmm.
And the blockchain allows for that. And so that technology is going to be used first for Bitcoin, and then for all these other new services that are tied to any data that needs to stay permanent. So your medical records, or your diploma, or your nursing license, or your ID, or driver's license, whatever. Those things are all going to be very permanent. And so or your collection of, beeples. All those things are going to be in the form of an NFT, a non-fungible token. And that's a really interesting use of the blockchain. So right. I'm excited about that use of the blockchain. The other use of the blockchain I really love is what this company Cryptio is doing, tying the accounting to the blockchain. And so we could run all of our businesses without auditing, accounting, bookkeeping, and or all the lawyers that are attached to all of that. We can actually have it all kept perfect records on the blockchain.
Yes.
And all the reports and the taxes and everything can all be put out there, and we can all be better off.
Yes.
The friction around accounting, the accounting profession or the legal profession, does slow down the economy, and we could speed it up a lot by tying our accounting to the blockchain.
Yes. Now, in addition to scarcity, the elements of scarcity and traceability, smart contracts can be added to crypto tokens such as Ether, and the new kid on the block, ICT, is the Internet Computer Token, for various apps. Would that be an indispensable or merely supplemental character for crypto? The smart contract?
It's going to be instrumental. It's going to be so exciting. I can't wait until I can raise a fund all in Bitcoin, invest it all in Bitcoin, and have my entrepreneurs pay their employees and suppliers all in Bitcoin, all on smart contracts. And then when any of my entrepreneurs sell their business, have all that Bitcoin go back to my investors according to the distribution waterfall that we've set up. And if we can do that, the whole system, and then taxes paid, the whole thing can be one walled garden of Bitcoin, and there's no dispute. There's no argument that, hey, this word meant this and this word meant this. It's all built into software, mm-hmm. and all the contracts are all fixed Bitcoin contracts all the way down, all the way up. So I'm very excited for when we can use smart contracts
for all
the
digital
venture
currencies.
capital business, but it can be in all of finance, it can be in betting, it can be in real estate, it can be used in all different forms. Real estate, you could have a smart contract, and we have a company called Proppy that that is working toward making it so that all title is kept on the blockchain and all real estate is done on a smart contract. And eventually you'll be able to buy and sell pieces of real estate on a smart contract. And that will be a thing of beauty.
So you eliminate the title companies, the real estate brokers, maybe even the lenders.
Well, I never feel, all our jobs are going to be eliminated by artificial intelligence. Everybody's job. We all will have to continually reinvent to see what our job becomes. The media had to reinvent their businesses because the internet, the movie business, they reinvented their business because of the internet. Now we have Bitcoin, the blockchain, smart contracts, artificial intelligence, surveillance. A whole bunch of the biggest industries in the world are going to go through major transformation.
Which is exciting.
Because of those things. But all those people, sure, we're all going to lose our job. We're all going to have to reinvent. We're going to have to find better ways to operate, more productive things to do.
Okay. Do you think smart contracts make crypto tokens more valuable? Yes, obviously.
Yeah, because you can, I think smart contracts are critical for the long-term success of any contracts in general are critical for long-term success of any currency. Smart contracts are going to be so much better and so much easier to use than the complicated, where we're putting contracts into words. Words are a lot harder to understand than software is.
Yeah, me as a tree-hugging environmentalist and an extremely concerned advocate for sustainability, I do agree with Elon Musk that, and I would like to see adding the fourth element to crypto's unique value proposition. That's sustainability.
Well, you're wrong. You haven't done the research. The banks use more energy. If we all move to Bitcoin, we would use a lot less energy and a lot less of the carbon.
No, Tim, that's not my question. My question.
No, but you're saying that that's a problem. No,
it's not a problem. No.
Are using all the energy.
No. I agree to put sustainability as one of the four cornerstones for crypto's intrinsic value, because in the long term, you're right. I'm not agreeing per se whose argument is right, but what I'm saying is that the mere fact that we are putting sustainability as an element for determining the value of crypto currencies is good, because we need to. We need that. Okay, good. Now, next question is, how would you describe crypto? Is it a currency? Is it a commodity? Is it a type of security? Is it all of the above, depending on what utility is imbued into each particular crypto?
I think that the IRS got it right. It's a currency and it's an asset, but it's more a currency. I think it should be treated as a currency from a point of view of, but I guess, a dollar is a currency and an asset. So yeah, it's treated the same way. Okay.
All right. Do you believe Bitcoin is the digital gold? If yes, will it rival and even surpass gold?
I think digital diamonds, because people have been calling me diamond hands. Well, yeah, gold is such an old vehicle as a currency. No one uses gold as a currency. People trying to buy their cup of coffee with gold is a ridiculous thought. Gold is something people retreat to when they're trying to retreat to the past. And there is value to gold. That it's a good use for jewelry. It's good use in some computers. So there is some value to gold, but it isn't in being a currency. And so I think if you are thinking in terms of a store of value, the way people used to store value was in gold. Then they stored value in the promise of gold, like a gold certificate. Then they stored value with the promise of the full faith and credit of a government. And now you can store value on a blockchain. And it's, I think we've taken a technological leap forward by allowing people to store value with Bitcoin.
Yes. Okay. About inflation, I know your answer, but I need to ask this because this is on average Joe's mind. Okay.
Oh, what's my answer?
Oh, great. Yeah, technological.
You know my answer, so go ahead.
I still have to ask it, okay? Because this is a very thorough, all aspect view of cryptocurrency. Technological innovation is usually a force to counter inflation. What is your assessment of the likelihood of prolonged inflation in the US in the next couple of years or even beyond, and globally as well?
You know, I think this is the fundamental problem that Bitcoin solves is there's no inflation. There are 21 million of them. That's all. If we are relying on governments to figure out the right model for inflation, to print just the right amount of money so that it doesn't go through an inflation death spiral or whatever, it's a very difficult thing to do because there's a lot of politics involved. Now, I've met a lot of the people on the Fed, and they are very wise people, and they're doing their best to just print the right amount of money. But you've got Congress and the government and the president saying we're going to print all this extra money. That could create an inflationary spiral that could go out of control. And where do you go in an inflationary spiral? You go to Bitcoin. So I would, boy, if they pass this thing, I don't know where it can go. I mean, think about it. If you're holding, $400 and the government doubles the number of dollars out there, your $400 are worth the equivalent of $200 before the printing of all that extra money. So people's dollars aren't going to be worth as much. People's Bitcoin will be worth more.
So if they do that, it's good news for Bitcoin. Because
it just hurries the need for people to have a stable currency that they can trust and build businesses and comfort in working toward acquiring.
Right.
You want to build your business, live your life, and feel confident that you're building something of value in an environment that is not going to disappear. And if you're building it in Argentinian pesos, you are losing huge value there.
Yes. So the question is crypto a safe haven for protecting cash from devaluation caused by inflation? If yes, why? If not, why? You just answered. So let's move on to the next question. I can see the value of using dollar-backed crypto in countries where inflation is out of control, like in Venezuela or Argentina. Folks can bypass the banks and get their money stabilized by crypto. But for Americans, what is the use of having dollar-backed crypto?
I think I already mentioned that. I mean, America had very low inflation for a long, long time.
Right.
But if you print as many dollars as they're talking about printing, I think inflation would be inevitable.
For how long?
Well, until somebody comes in. I mean, Carter created huge inflationary time, and Reagan, I believe,
Reagan,
and Ford stopped it. But the way he stopped it was very painful. Interest rates moved up to 20% at some points. And with 20% interest rates, it's a very difficult environment to run a business.
Yes.
It's difficult to raise capital, all those things. So hopefully we won't have to go through that. But and occasionally you could print a bunch of money and the economy can grow based on printing that extra money enough so that you don't suffer big inflation.
That's
the balancing act the Fed has always had, and that's actually worked for quite a number of years. But now it's become political because the government made the mistake of telling everybody to lock down, and people are getting these checks, and some people are getting these checks and saying, well, why should I drive an Uber when I get more money just from coming in from the government on this check? There is a disincentive for a lot of people to work when the government is providing money, and it's money they've taken from other people. But and so that disincentive to work can be a downward spiral itself.
That's true. But as of
and then today, it starts looking more like North Korea.
Well, that's a little extreme.
I have to go to the government for my money, and then
I checked the Bloomberg News today. The people on unemployment benefits are going down, so that's good news. Okay, so less and less people are living on that unemployment paycheck. There seems to be a chicken and egg thing. So the government is trying to, on the one hand, printing money, but also betting, quote unquote, that the economy will revive and the technology itself will lift us out of prolonged inflationary risk. And for Biden to do that is to have this big stimulus program to push the economy over the threshold. And yes, so it's a balancing act.
If he wants the economy to revive and to grow, he needs to deregulate.
Yes.
Less regulation, more freedom builds an economy much faster.
Yes. Yeah, except in the environmental protection area, which we do need to protect our clean air and water and other resources.
But the government doesn't have to do that.
We can debate about that later. Okay, now if traceability, transparency is one of the cornerstones for crypto's intrinsic value, privacy is at odds with transparency. But some tokens are offering privacy protection. What do you think of that?
I think everything is eventually shows in the light. And I think it all comes out in the end. And I think anything that says it's private right now isn't necessarily going to be private in 5 years or 10 years. So I look at privacy as not a big issue. I think when I think privacy, I think, what are they hiding?
Yes.
I don't think it's. I think it's better for everything to be out in the open.
Yes, that's
and then and that's why I like Bitcoin better than I like whatever those dark coins are. I think I like Bitcoin because, hey, that blockchain is open to all those miners and anybody who wants to look at it.
Right. So what do you think of the many varieties of crypto coins, meme coins, even quote unquote, excuse my language, they call it shit coins out there?
I like when people are really dedicating themselves to a new way operating, new way of thinking. And so some of those coins, I mean, I would just, if I were buying altcoins, I'd be looking to the altcoins where we have where there are really good engineers working on that token, and that token has a real purpose, not just a Bitcoin copy, but a real purpose and a real technology that's going to take humanity forward into a new direction. We've seen well, since I bought all that Bitcoin and I was in the first two ICOs after the Dow, Tezos and Bancor, I got mobbed with people all wanting my money to start a new token. And it was all a bunch of copycats and, you know, get rich quick schemes and whatever. I pushed them all away, and I waited for those very select few that had real engineers, real passion behind them, and I focused on those and a real reason to be.
Yes, good. So Peter Thiel was quoted saying in January this year that crypto, quote unquote, is a secret financial weapon of the Chinese government. I think he got it all wrong because the Chinese government has shown how they hate it. Okay. Then he was in
well,
the
maybe
news.
He means government crypto. Maybe the Chinese or
Chinese digital yuan, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, maybe the digital yuan.
Okay. Yes, I have
maybe
a question.
That's a threat to other cryptocurrencies.
But
you know, there is something I'm thinking about is that, you know, Iceland came up with the Aurora coin, and I thought, wow, that's so great. They've come up with a currency that is government backed, and this is what, and it's going to be global, and it's going to be great. And then they said, oh no, it's only going to be accepted in Iceland. I thought, you missed the whole point. And I look at the digital yuan, and although in Iceland, I don't know, there are 500,000 people, and in China there are 1 billion. I think the digital yuan is the same problem. It's only going to be accepted in China. And I think that it's got to be global. It's got to be open. It's got to be. So they're going to blow it too.
Yes. Okay. So Peter Thiel then just a couple of months ago was in the news again, issuing his own token and even creating his own exchange. So will you be issuing a Draper coin and even having your own exchange too?
I've been asked that since 2014, and if I haven't done it by now, I'm not going to probably do it. But Peter Thiel is a brilliant man, and I respect all that he has done, and I like he's got an innovative spirit. I think, I don't, whether he says it or thinks it or not, he fights for freedom and trust around the world. I really like everything he's done. You know, even if he's got a coin, I think, great. Whatever he's doing, great.
Why are you not?
It's like Elon, whatever he's doing, great, but he didn't really understand what's really going on in energy before he flip-flopped on Bitcoin.
Okay. You want to get some water, take a break. But I do agree in theory to put the element of sustainability into the value proposition of Bitcoin. So you and Elon Musk are just on the two sides of the same page. Okay.
Yeah.
You
well,
actually,
you know, here's the interesting thing. It is sustainable. If you're most of the stored value in Bitcoin is going to be slow to move and energy, it's going to use a lot of energy. But when Bitcoin is used as a currency, it's going to be used the way OpenNode uses it. They move it off chain. It's very efficient. It moves very quickly and very efficiently. And then when it moves back on chain, it takes energy. So there is no difference between the amount of energy that Bitcoin's going to be using as a currency and any of the other cryptocurrency. But there's a big difference between what the little Bitcoin uses and the huge amount that banks use. So, yeah, I mean, people should look deeply into OpenNode. And if you're a retailer, there's no reason you shouldn't be accepting Bitcoin through OpenNode. And it uses very little energy.
Is it a reasonable prediction that after the crypto market as a whole will flush out all the quote unquote junk coins and those unsophisticated speculators, okay, the herd followers, perhaps half a dozen quote unquote finalist coins will be left on the crypto market? Will that lead to some level of stabilization?
Yeah, I think it'll go through every industry goes through this period where it gets hyped up and then it comes down, and then over a long period of time it goes even bigger than the hype. It just keeps going and going and going. And during that time, the also rans fall out of business, and that has been the way every industry has been developed throughout time. There were thousands and thousands of .coms, e-tailers that were there in the hype and then disappeared eventually, and everybody sort of consolidated around Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same kind of thing is happening, will happen around Bitcoin.
I have later a crucial question about the monopoly of the corporations, about like Amazon, Google, and all that later. Okay, from an average Joe investor's perspective, is the best crypto coin yet to come, since technology is evolving and more smart contracts are being created for more apps and more sustainable ways of mining coins, as you said, will be adopted? So the best is yet to come?
It could be, but if I'm a retailer today, the first token I accept is Bitcoin. But it could be that other tokens come up and rise for one reason or another. That kind of thing makes for a great environment. When there is competition, everybody gets better.
In addition to the four cornerstones, which I listed earlier, is traceability, is scarcity, and smart contracts, and the sustainability. In addition to these four cornerstones for crypto, do you believe that crypto must be in circulation, must be used in transactions in order to become viable and competitive with fiat and other traditional currencies? No?
I think it will be. I mean, I think it will. I think people they're starting to use it. I mean, I know that I bought a house, and the people knew who I was, and they said they wanted Bitcoin instead of dollars. And I was donating to a school. I was thinking of donating some money to Stanford, and they wanted my Bitcoin. They didn't want dollars from me. They want dollars, but they'd rather take Bitcoin. I think over time, I mean, at Draper University, we would rather people pay in Bitcoin to come to our school. For rent at Hero City, we'd rather have people pay in Bitcoin. In general, we're much happier to accept Bitcoin than fiat. I think most retailers will start feeling that way too. And I think that they're going to say, well, wait, when people swipe their credit card, 2.5% to 4% of my business goes to the banks. Well, what if I use Bitcoin? Well, it's a lot less than 2.5% to 4% that goes to nothing goes to the banks. It's a lot less than 2.5% to 4%. You can double their profit margin if they accept Bitcoin. So I think people are going to start using it. So I don't think that I think that sure, Bitcoin would be interesting just as a store of value, but it is so much more. I mean, my gosh, if you ran Lucasfilm and you realized that you had to spend $8 for every check you send out to the assistant, to the lighting director, and instead you could just drop Bitcoin into a wallet automatically every time somebody orders the movie, you've got a much better vehicle for spreading currency. Sending money overseas is so much easier with Bitcoin than it is with fiat.
Okay.
Whether you send a remittance to your family or whether you're paying people overseas, Bitcoin's so much easier.
Okay, but
so it will be used as a currency.
Okay, good.
And it is being used as a currency. It's just a matter of
time. Okay, yeah. So now, as of now, there are 100 million cryptocurrency holders in the world. That's less than 1% of the global population. And the circulation is far from being adequate. So what is preventing crypto from being used and circulated more widely?
Well, it's the women. 1 out of 14 Bitcoin wallets is held by a woman, and women control 80% of retail spending. So once the retailer realizes that they can save money by accepting Bitcoin, and they can spread some of that savings to the women who spend the money retail, then the women will all make sure they have Bitcoin wallets. And so that I think that is one of the items that's going to spread it. But hey, 100 million people, that's a lot more than it was last year, and it's a lot more than it was the year before, and it's a lot more than it was the year before that. So it's just a matter of every new technology grows at a certain rate, and it spreads around the world, and Bitcoin is similar in that way.
Okay, so would you agree that even without sufficient circulation, crypto is still a store of value, like land or diamond that holds value?
Oh yeah, I would. Well, you said crypto. I'd say Bitcoin is a good store of value. Crypto, it depends on which currency.
Right.
Some currencies are centralized and some are decentralized. Some have inflation attached to them and some do not. I would be very particular on which currencies I would look at as potential stores of value, but Bitcoin is one.
Okay, you predicted that Bitcoin would reach 220,000 to 250,000. 250,000 in 2020.
By 2022, the end of 2022 or early 2023.
What's your basis for such prediction?
Well, the way I looked at it, I thought, by the way, I predicted when it was 2014, and I said in 3 years, Bitcoin will hit 10,000, and Bitcoin was at $180. And I said in 3 years, Bitcoin will hit 10,000. And it did. In fact, almost 3 years to the day.
That's impressive.
This time, in 2018, I predicted that in 2022, Bitcoin would hit 250,000 at the end of 2022 or early 2023. And I did that based on that, and I kind of had it in my head that Bitcoin was going to go through that natural progression. It was going to go up, little hype thing. It got up to 17,000, came way down, 3,000, and then quietly, slowly but surely, and with some volatility, it will continue to rise way past where the top of that hype was. And the reasoning is that the hype was on the imaginations of the people in 2013. And their imaginations have gone way beyond where they were there. and it was in their imagination. But then the reason that the hype goes away is that people go, hey, but I can't use this to buy my groceries yet. And so what has to happen is engineers have to go do all that work to make it easy for people to go buy their groceries with Bitcoin. Once they have, and that's usually like a 4-year period, then it becomes a use that something that everyone can now use. And so once everybody's using it, then I was saying that a 4 or 5% market share by 2022, 2023 is probably not even optimistic. I think it might actually be a lot higher, but yeah, that is my it's a combination of my gut, all of the analysis I've done on all the industries I've ever looked at throughout my life, and that's how I came up with that number.
Did you take into consideration about the smart contracts and that can be applied to a lot of apps, like Ethereum and internet computer tokens, and more innovative, more smarter, quote unquote, contracts that are coming to compete with Bitcoin? Did you consider that will slow the Bitcoin's ascent?
Oh yeah, of course. There is always going to be competition, but it was pretty clear to me at that point, by 2018, that Bitcoin was going to be the Amazon, and the rest of the currencies were going to be the other e-commerce sites. And that was my thinking.
Okay, so you said that you will eat a raw egg if Bitcoin does not reach.
I don't know where that came from. I'm happy to do it, but I don't know where that came
It was in the news. Okay, so I'm willing.
So everything in the news is right?
Oh all right, God. So
don't listen to the news. The news spreads fear.
I know.
Did you see my voice saying I would do that? No.
Okay.
No one has. I don't know where it came from. Anyway, I don't care. I mean, I'm happy to do it. Who wouldn't?
Okay, so here, I'm willing to eat a sour lemon on my show without the peel, okay? If it does reach 250 and above. So if you
like sour lemons.
All right, how about we make a deal?
Wait, you know my feeling about pessimists. The pessimists of the world, they bring a lot of good points up, but they do not accomplish anything. The optimists of the world are the ones who accomplish things. So I would not do that bet. I would not put the pessimistic view on there. I would just ride with it.
Okay, I just for the sake of having you
back. But I like raw lemons.
Okay, so let's substitute the raw egg with a raw lemon. So I'll have you do it on my show.
I think look, I'll eat them both.
Oh my God, that would be great. Thank you. All right, I'll definitely invite you back. Okay, now next question is, the irrevocability of crypto transactions seems to be like a double-edged sword. Because
what does?
Irrevocability. Yeah. You cannot retract it. You cannot revoke it. Irrevocability. But to err is human. Everybody makes typos and mistakes. And if someone type in an amount with accidentally 2 more zeros, so mistakenly sending 10,000 when only $100 is intended, there is no way to reverse that mistake.
I mean, as I said, engineers are working on all these problems. Okay. I think being in the venture business, I see the engineers solving all sorts of problems. Okay. And I've seen companies that are going after that specific problem. And so in 5 years, that problem's going to be nothing. People can either operate that is in the world of irrevocability, or they can operate in the world that is that is revocable, and I think they were not going to do 4 days the way the old banks do it, but I think they were going to have 4 hours in which to pull it back.
Okay.
And so that's coming. So that's a non-question.
Okay. Any other black swan for crypto or for Bitcoin, in your opinion?
I think black swans come all the time. It's very exciting. They're coming faster and more furiously because more and more people are free, and more people are in countries where they can work in a free market. It's too bad it seems we're losing China as a free market, but most of the rest of the countries are free, and as more and more people become free, more innovation happens, and more black swans, and I think that the countries that are accepting of new ideas and new technologies and Bitcoin and blockchain and smart contracts and artificial intelligence, all that, the ones who are more accepting and less regulatory, are going to be huge winners over the next 40 years. And the ones that put down all of these rules and laws and make it so their people can't do anything, those countries are going to be the big failures of the next 40 years.
Yes. Okay. So you just answered my question ahead of time. Who will be the biggest winners of crypto? Are they the early investors like you? And who are the biggest losers?
I think humanity is the big winner. I think command and control governments are the big loser, because they've been operating like monopolies for a long time. And all of a sudden, they have to think, how do I attract people? How do I attract businesses? How do I attract money to my country? How do I attract citizens and brain power? How do I attract entrepreneurs? That's the thinking that has to go on in a government's mind. And if they're not thinking that way, they're thinking, I'm going to control everything, and it's me, and I want my power and whatever. The best governments are not the ones who say, I want power. Best governments are the ones who say, I want my people to thrive. And the ones who are just saying, I have to be in control of everything, tell everybody what to do, those countries are going to be the ones that are the poorest in 40 years. The richest countries are going to be the ones that are free and trusted and do things for the people.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. Now, traditional currencies and fiat have existed without crypto, digital currency. Do you think crypto can exist without fiat as an independent currency?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, as soon as they start if fiat went away today, all the retailers would immediately take Bitcoin, and they would say, oh, hey, we'll take this because you don't have fiat anymore. And I think the world would be a lot better off. I think over time, we're going to see, that would be an acceleration. But I think over time, we're going to see that we don't want currencies that are allowed to be manipulated by people.
Now, do you think the government will allow at this stage crypto to coexist with fiat?
Which government? The Chinese government doesn't seem to want it.
US government and European.
The US government is allowing it to go. The US government knows, they have figured out that they benefited in a huge way from letting the internet go and not regulating it, not taxing it, letting it go. They won big. Same thing's happening now. US government, there's plenty of pushing, pulling, and the Fed is, concerned, whatever. and the US government might do their own cryptocurrency. I think it'd be a mistake, but they might do their own cryptocurrency.
That's one of my questions below. Yes.
Yeah, but they know that they want the innovation in their country.
Right.
They know that the golden goose is the entrepreneur.
Yes.
That entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley is driving huge value to the rest of the country
and the world.
And they don't want to do anything to harm that entrepreneur.
Okay.
They want to make sure that entrepreneur, that 28-year-old who wants to start this business and make something interesting happen, they want that person in their country.
Yeah, but a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, Binance was being probed into, investigated by the IRS and for money laundering and tax evasions. Is that an independent, isolated incident, or is that?
Well, I sure hope so. And investigation is one thing. A ban is another.
Right.
A regulation is another. But investigation, I mean, people get investigated all the time.
Okay.
And if Binance has nothing to hide.
All right. So right now, as of this moment, what's the relationship of crypto in theory with fiat? Is it interdependent? Is it codependent? Is it symbiosis? Like you scratch my back, I scratch yours as of now?
Well, it's not codependent because I don't think crypto is depending on fiat in any way. But people need fiat right now to buy their groceries. When they don't need fiat anymore to buy their groceries, they're not going to use it.
Okay. All right. Do you think the government needs to regulate crypto as SEC regulates securities?
I believe that people are smart. I don't believe that people need the kinds of protections that all governments try to enforce on them. Now the SEC was set up to protect the widows and the orphans. Maybe they do need to protect the widows. I don't think they need to protect the orphans. I think the orphans are trying to get their businesses, their lives started. They want to take some risks. They should be able to invest in private companies. They should be able to invest in whatever, because they're just trying to. Otherwise, they could be trapped in poverty. A lot of people got out of poverty by buying crypto, and they took a chance and they bought some crypto. Well, we want that to be a possibility, and I don't think. I am not a believer in heavy regulations. I'm a big believer in very light touch regulations. And I think the lighter the touch, the more the economy will grow.
Right.
The heavier the touch, when the government starts telling us to lock this down or do that or whatever, we start becoming prisoners. And we start just doing whatever the government tells us to do and nothing more. But if we're free, we do so much more. We create, we build businesses, we make lives for people better, we help each other, we do all sorts of great things for each other. And so I believe in light touch regulation, and that has been the cornerstone of America for many, many, many decades.
Right.
And that has helped America grow and grow and grow and become a great, great country.
Yes.
Now you're seeing other countries start to say, well, we're free. Like, Malta is saying, bring your currency here. It's this huge benefit. You're seeing a lot of the Eastern European countries say, hey, we're free. Come on, come to our country now. And I think that now they might be just saying, hey, we're free, come to our country, and then we're going to regulate you. But I think they're eventually going to start recognizing that they're in competition with all the other countries of the world for you.
Mm-hmm.
for the
No,
great minds, the capital, the entrepreneurs of the world. They're in competition.
Now, I never believe in overregulation that kills businesses, okay, in economy. But at this point, light regulation and taxation will establish legitimacy for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency. Now,
Hey, I've just, we've gone way over.
I know, I still
Oh
have.
my God, I have to go. Thank you.
Can we continue?
Sorry.
Can we
Bye.
continue?